All right, welcome back. Now I got a lot of videos that I'm gonna do today, and I figured I'd start off with something light-hearted, just to get in the groove of, and to build some positive energy. But for a few seconds before I get started, what is going on with these new automobiles? I'm in the market looking for a new SUV. And I'm looking at this Mitsubishi. I'm like, I like that. That is a nice looking SUV, at least on the outside. And then I get a photo of the inside and it looked like this. What is up with these new vehicles? Putting like a display, like a device, it's like a sideways cell phone, Android or something, where it's just sitting up right there on the dashboard. Why are they doing this? That looks so weird. It looks like a mistake. This screen it has always been built into the dashboard. It don't look like it's built into the dashboard now. It looks like there's something standing up, something like somebody stuck something onto the dashboard. What in the world? That looks weird. And these new interiors look like they're from the 1950s or 60s or something like that. I don't know what they're doing with these new autos, but it make me not want to get one. I'm going to just keep my old automobile, man. They doing goofy stuff with these modern vehicles. Now, y'all see the title or the question. The title and sort of the thumbnail asks a question. Really asks a question. Does Rose have more promise as a champion than Natalia Silva? Do you believe that Rose could bring more interest to the division, to the sport? Does she have more stock, more potential? That is what I base who I root for on. Like in this fight against Natalia Silva, I'm rooting for Natalia Silva. I want her to win on a personal level for a reason. Not because of her as a person or a fighter. Has nothing to do with that. At all. I don't care what other fighter were in her place right now. Name any other fighter, including Macy Barber. If they could have Silva's record, I would be rooting for them to defeat Rose. I don't get personal and fanned out with these fighters to the point where I'm a root against the sport's growth. Like, do you not understand that with more interest in the sport, that's going to mean or amount to a larger audience for content creators? Do you not see how that correlates? More people interested in WMMA will result in more people subscribing to you, listening to your content, and providing for you feedback, objective viewpoints, or whatever your reason is for having a platform. I root for the growth of the sport, period. And that is why I want Natalya Silva to win. We know who Rose is. We know what she offers. And do you think Rose, skill-wise, from a competitive standpoint, would be a dominant champion? Do you think she would be a dominant champion in this division? Do you think she has more potential? Do you think it's more likely that she would be a dominant champion in this division? I think she's already proven that she would not be a dominant champion. She already has 2 losses at the division, doesn't she? Erin Blanchfield, Manon Fiorot. Both fighters who are not champions. She's already proven that she would not be a dominant champion. And a dominant champion brings attention. It draws attention. Not only to the division, not only to WMMA. They draw attention to the sport overall. Because quite often you'll have people who find the champion interesting, seeing that the champion gets more exposure than the other fighters. They get the most exposure in the division. Some people see them as a result, and for whatever reason, want to look into them, want to follow them. And it's always the most dominant champions who draw the most attention. That's just what it is. And it's always been that way. All the champions in all combat sports, Muhammad Ali, you name it, at the peak of their career, where they drew the most attention, they were undefeated. The aura came from, who can beat this fighter? It was strong with fighters like George Foreman, Muhammad Ali. In their mind, they're like, Foreman is going to eventually kill somebody in there. It's actually dangerous for some fighters to fight him. Nobody's going to beat him. Ali is about to die. That was the belief before Ali fought Foreman. A lot of people were genuinely afraid for Ali's life. And you go down the line. Roy Jones, no matter who you name, their drawing power was strong. And they were all undefeated. Mike Tyson. It got to the point where Mike Tyson, I was alive around that time. I was born in 1977. It got to the point where the people who did not see the fight, they would ask, how long did the fight last? They wouldn't even ask who won. We all knew Tyson won. What round did he knock him out in? It was more like questions like that. The aura of invincibility goes hand in hand with combat sports. It fuels combat sports more than anything else as far as having drawing power. The undefeated, it's just that people don't respect the undefeated streak to that point. I guess I'm old school. Pernell Whitaker, you can go down the line. It does not matter. Conor McGregor, you find that the reason why they were so captivating is because along with their skill set, along with their flashiness, they had not been defeated yet. Aura of invincibility matters. Rose doesn't even have that. And like I've said, you get a second chance in the UFC. Several people believe this. If you took losses before coming into the UFC and you managed to pile up 5, 6 fights in a row and you have been defeated, people will look at you as a new fighter. You stepped up in competition and you're showing dominance against top competition. You're clearly not the same fighter you were when you took a loss on the regional level. So it's sort of like you get a chance to once again be an undefeated fighter. You get to benefit from being and actually referred to as an undefeated fighter, whether or not people specify that you're undefeated in the UFC. Remember, Wei had a loss, several fighters had a loss coming into UFC, but they still had this aura of invincibility. Manon Fiore, another one, because they had not lost in the UFC, and it's usually it's been a while since they've been defeated, right? That loss that's at the regional level is early in their career. Rose doesn't offer none of that. She offers none of that. And that's why I don't understand how so many people root for Rose to win in this fight. And they're all in the comment section here. Here, Team Namajunas. You got a number of people. Let's go Rose. Rose. A lot of people rooting for Silva, but here's another Rose. I don't understand why it's not a shutout. It should be a shutout, where everybody's rooting for Natalia Silva. Although Rose has already proven that she could not and would not be a dominant champion, the same may be true with Natalia Silva. The thing is, we don't know. With Silva, we don't know. So that automatically puts more stock, gives her more stock. There's more promise. There's more of a chance because we don't know. There's more of a chance because she hasn't proven to be unable, incapable, like Rose has. Rose came to the division, got whooped, turned around, took another L. Not in a subsequent fight, but took another L in the division. She's already demonstrated to you, I can't be a dominant champion. Whereas Silva defeated all her opponents. 2 of them were former champions. She has done a better job at demonstrating that she would be a dominant champion if she were to become champion. So why root for Rose? Another thing Rose has already proven to us is her inconsistency. In terms of performance, in terms of being mentally prepared for a fight, in terms of being mentally prepared but then getting into the cage and deciding that she don't want to engage. She's already had a bunch of things happen where she's proven to be unreliable. We can't depend on you to show up every night. Again, that reduces the chances that she becomes a dominant champion. Her title reign at 115, what did we see there? She took the belt, knocked out Joanna, turned around and kept doing something that was kind of stupid with Andrade. Holding on to that, she trying to get an armbar, Kimura or something? And that was her way of defending the slam by Andrade. Andrade made adjustments in the fight and just dumped her on her head and took her belt. Seemed like Rose always turns around and does something stupid. When she's on top, she seems to prove that she doesn't have the mentality to stay on top. She was teeing off on Andrade in the first round. But then in the second round, she was actually starting to get hit more by Andrade. You saw it again in the rematch with Andrade. Her dominance level is inconsistent. Compare her to Shevchenko, for example. Then you had her get the belt again, turn around and have a Carla Esparza moment, where her inconsistency actually set a record. These are like so non-dominant that they were cringe and historic when it comes to Rose. She has historic record-breaking moments of goofiness, unprofessionalism, lack of dominance, almost emotional and mental crash outs. And if not any of that, she simply can't dominate her opponents. Erin Blanchfield. Now against Manon, she hurt her finger. I think she would have been more competitive had she not done that against Manon. I think if her finger had not broken, she would have been more competitive. It may have even defeated Manon. But as it was, she messed up her finger. I don't know if they ever reattached it, but she completed the fight. She fought as if it wasn't giving her any problems. But it is a psychological thing. She can't dominate like that. And it's weird, right? Because people look at her as a high-level striker. And it was high-level striking that enabled Manon to dominate Erin, wasn't it? She defeated Erin with a jab. Go back and watch the fight. Erin lost that fight to a consistent jab that she couldn't figure out how to get around. Why couldn't Rose do the same thing? Huh? She's not as high level of a striker as Manon. Manon has better pattern recognition. She's better at establishing something and noticing whether or not you can deal with it, and building her offense around that, where it's also specific for that opponent. The only other fighter who's figured out how to do that is Natalia Silva. Again, Silva shows more promise. Why would you get behind Rose? Y'all a bunch of goofies. So fanned out that you're willing to, go against the improvement of the sport. Okay, whatever. But Lord, that is not how I operate. Just know that going forward. I might enjoy watching certain fighters fight, but I will never be so fanned out. You know what I mean? I think you can refer to a person like that as a fan of a particular fighter. There are some fighters who I enjoy watching more than others because, they might have a higher skill set. The higher your skill set, the more likely I am to want to watch you fight. And actually, Rose has not shown Natalia level skill set. Silva seems faster, has better boxing, and a better kicking game, and better on her feet. So it seems like to me with Natalia Silva, she just doesn't have the strawweight early knockout power. I don't know why people are still talking about Rose's power at 125. She hasn't shown that kind of power at 125. And to totally dismiss the weight class is very silly, especially at weights this low. Comparing 115 to 125. They can take her shots at this weight. Well, let me say they might be able to take her shots at this weight. One thing we can't say at 125 is that Rose has knockout power. Right? You can only say that if she has flatlined a flyweight. She hasn't done that. You can't just dismiss weight class like that. Oh, Rose did this at 115. She did that at 115. Good for her. This ain't 115. You got fighters who should be at 135 in this division. And Rose then came up to this division with a gut. And can't get rid of it. She cannot get rid of that gut because that would require a significant increase in muscle mass. That ain't happening. She an old pudgy flyweight. And she's not showing that kind of power at flyweight. Silva seems bigger at this division. Seems bigger in general than Rose. She's lean at this weight class. You know, pudgy gut following Natalia Silva. So yeah, we can all root for whoever we want to root for. But if people, or when people wonder why I want a certain fighter to win, that's why. Just refer back to what I said about Natalia Silva, because that is why I root and want any fighter that I might want to win. That's why. There is no alternate reason, no other reason. Right? There's a fighter here who had a big knockout, a lot of big knockouts. A lot of them in PFL, a lot of them in Invicta. I was just looking at one chick, she's like 7-0. Just recently knocked somebody out with one punch. I can't find the video. Can't play it anyways. But slept her with a single punch. And she has a buzz. She has a buzz. Her name is ringing. Why? She hasn't lost yet. She's dominating quality fighters and hasn't lost yet. Silva, for example, has dominated quality fighters. 2 former champions. So, you know, it's intense. When it comes to Silva, she's like far ahead. She has far more stock and promise than Rose Namajunas. They also recently made, and Wang Kong might get knocked out here. That chin of hers, it's too fragile. There's always a chance she gets knocked out. I'll put it like that. If she doesn't get knocked out, she could outstrike a fighter here and there. And if she doesn't get knocked out, she can just get hurt and lose by TKO. But she got an epic chin. It's epic. They made Aileen Perez, Macy Chase on. Not too hype or excited about that. Rescheduled. Lemos, Jillian. I guess Jillian really wants that fight. It would be a significant move up. And I'm going to take Jillian. Another fighter who I, got my fingers crossed for is the other newcomer. Hopefully she doesn't get exposed in the striking department. Right? Mosquito. Why? She hasn't lost. They calling her a legend in BJJ. Right? If I'm not mistaken, she hasn't lost at all yet. So I'm going to be behind her whoever she fights. Whoever she fights. To stay undefeated, to be on a 5, 6, 7 fight win streak in MMA is not easy. To fight former champions during that win streak and stay undefeated, not only stay undefeated, but to win convincingly, whereas that you don't even have any split decisions. That is not easy. And when a fighter pulls it off, I give that more credit. I tilt my hat to that more than most people. Put it like that. And I will leave it there.